Hello everybody. I decided to do a quick video about this because it's been kind of blowing up all over YouTube and Twitter, and I do have an opinion on it that I don't think enough people are really kind of going over. But it also kind of plays into what I discussed with Tara Reade the other night, and I will play a clip from that interview in this video. But first of all, let me get to the point that I've been kind of waiting to see if would get resolved, which is, and it's not, basically several left-leaning YouTube outlets like Vaush, the Serfs, etc., all did bits calling out Jimmy Dore for sexual harassment of Anna Kasparian. But I guess to kind of frame the situation, Anna Kasparian accused Jimmy Dore of doing that in private messages in retaliation for things that Jimmy Dore was saying publicly on Twitter about her. And whether that, it's kind of questionable in of itself, which is something that Robert Greenwald pointed out, it's something actually several other prominent, normally just journalists point out. The fight that they're having is over the Young Turks disparaging Aaron Mate and suggesting that he's paid by the Russians. Aaron Mate is currently doing a lot of journalism on what's going on in Syria. It's a very anti-war position, anti-imperialist position. The Young Turks has been a corporate entity for quite some time. I unsubscribed like months ago because I just couldn't stand it anymore. The stuff that they put up there, it's just kind of turning into like, a slightly progressive leaning MSNBC, or the nickname I commonly hear is Fox News for progressives, because, they just put their twist on things. And in some cases, like inventing that somebody's a Russian agent or whatever, they just pull it out of their asses and there's no actual basis for fact in that. And then they just keep repeating it anyway. The fight that went on now has kind of exploded into different left-leaning channels, including Kyle Kulinski's Secular Talk, and I think that the thing that keeps glaringly like coming up to my view is that after, well, I guess preemptively, after getting that PM, Jimmy Dore went on his own show and revealed what the private message said, and told the story from his point of view. And as far as to what happened between him and Anna, and they responded, in their own kind of disparaging way, meaning the Young Turks on their channel. So then Jimmy decided, okay, fine, and gave them both barrels by putting together montages of the different things that the Young Turks have done over the years that are totally misogynistic. And the reason this is also relevant is because of the fact that it plays into what the working environment was like at the time that Jimmy Dore was working with the Young Turks. And that would include Anna Kasparian herself, for example, playing games with Cenk Uygur that were things like taking a picture of a woman, in tights and asking her co-host to guess the camel toe, taking a picture of a woman's cleavage and asking her co-host to guess whose cleavage it was. I think the one that really sticks out in my head beyond anything else is that paparazzi basically caught a picture taken without consent, of a woman's crotch. And they talked about it, in dirty fashions. And then eventually Anna Kasparian herself offered to show her viewers the unedited version of this picture if they would go to her website. So at this point, she's literally trying to profit from showing people a picture of a woman's crotch that was taken without consent. Now, I'm going to be clear about something. If what happened, as far as how she describes it, that supposedly Jimmy Dore had been victimizing her for years in a sexual harassing manner in the time that she worked there. She didn't come forward about it before, which is obviously, as Glenn Greenwald pointed out, that doesn't mean necessarily that it didn't happen. It just seems a bit interestingly timed. However, it also, it brings to question like the work environment in which Jimmy Dore was in at the time. When he made a comment about her skirt, was a work environment that included profiting from showing people unedited pictures of women's crotches taken without consent. Now I'm going to play a clip here that was actually put together, I think it was by Primo Radical, of kind of a montage of the different things that the Young Turks used to do on a regular basis. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is that even if Jimmy Dore is 100% guilty of everything that Ana Kasparian said, in our current cancel culture, I don't understand why everybody is dead silent about all the things that the Young Turks used to do. And I want to be clear, I watch mostly R-rated material, like I watch Quentin Tarantino films, I watch a lot of stuff. But this is the kind of stuff that if it was on my TV, I'd just turn it off. Like, it's that disgusting. I don't have any interest in that kind of entertainment. I guess Jimmy Dore said they were trying to be like Howard Stern, like a leftist version of Howard Stern or something like that. I didn't watch Howard Stern either. I don't really find anything appealing about shock jocks, but I also think the idea of, even if it's a celebrity, you shouldn't be, sharing essentially revenge porn of them, for the sake of likes and clicks on your website and profiting from it. You really have no moral grounding to stand on at that point, particularly considering like this big long lecture that you're going to see in the video clip about to play, with Ana Kasparian lecturing her audience, about what kind of audience they want to have and how they're fostering a movement, and that if you like the sort of stuff that Jimmy Dore said, then we don't want you here. So they cleverly put those clips together with the clips of all the things that the Young Turks have done over the years, that are far worse than even anything that Jimmy Dore is being accused of doing. So let me show you that clip now.
I want to be clear about who we are and the kind of audience we want to foster.
There's something weird about the way her cooch looks.
I think it is. I know. It feels like, you know what it is? It looks like an old cooch.
It does look like an old cooch.
Because this isn't just about building an audience, it's about building a movement.
No, bitch, get your shit straightened out, okay? You are not to go outside the house anymore without panties on.
Right. I totally agree with you.
And working with people, because we work with our audience all the time.
Nobody wants to see your coochie girl. Close those legs.
My guess is actually a lot of people want to see her coochie, unfortunately.
In pressure campaigns, in regard to like Congress.
Keep your freaking cooch away from the married man. I think it's up to women to like not be whores and not sleep with married men.
And we want people who have the right ethics and morals.
I work too hard for them to catch me using the word nigger. No, I'm not talking about the niggers with no souls. I'm talking about a regular nigger. She's not the wrong kind of nigger. She's just the kind of nigger we call nigger.
I would legalize bestiality where you are pleasuring the animal.
If you watch that and you think there wasn't a big deal, I think that was totally fine.
Britney's booty everywhere. Britney's booty everywhere.
Britney Spears is basically flashing her dimpled butt cheeks all over the place.
I don't want you in our audience.
No, she looks fat, dude. I mean, compared to that, she looks like the fat Elvis.
You are not part of what we're trying to do.
Holy cow, is she flat-chested? If she got some tits, she'd look great.
Spare me the tweets about how disappointed you are and how you're canceling membership.
She got all those rules without any tits. Look, kudos.
It's a very sad truth, but it's the truth.
I do not care. I don't care. Because I don't want that toxicity. I don't want that culture as part of anything we do at TYT.
You think you're never going to get in trouble for that? You're quite wrong.
So there are a lot more of these videos. A lot of them have been scrubbed because Cenk Uygur had like run for office, but it doesn't change the fact that this is all still here, and there are more where this came from. And I don't understand how the cancel mob hasn't come after these people yet. And it's one of the other major contradictions is people are like, well, that's 15 years ago. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you guys canceled people for stuff that's not even close to being that bad, and, for stuff that happened 20 years ago. So it's just, what I talked to Tara Reade about when it came to this was that it didn't make any sense to me. It's the high level of hypocrisy, I guess would be the way to put it. That, the Serfs, Vaush, Other left-leaning outlets all want to push this Metoo, cancellation on Jimmy Dore for allegedly doing something to Anna Kasparian, but they don't say anything about any of the other things that the Young Turks have done in the same sentence. It just doesn't make any sense, unless it comes back to what Tara and I both agreed on, which was that, yes, it's totally hypocritical, but Tara also makes a very valid point, which you will see now in this clip I'm taking from my conversation with her from a couple nights ago. It's just so corrupt at every level, and that's why it annoys me so much, because it's weaponizing women's suffering, weaponizing people being victimized, and that it's only important when it's convenient to them. And I'm watching this go on right now in the podcast YouTube universe because of the feud between Jimmy Dore and the Young Turks. And if Anna Kasparian comes out and she gives her story, an interesting timing, but regardless, she gives her story. And then, Jimmy exposes things that the Young Turks used to do that were just horrible. Like, I'm not even like a prude or anything, but I would just turn that off if I saw that kind of TV. They took pictures of women that were taken without consent and said, you can see the unedited version on our website. That's like something you do on a smut website. That's not something you do.
All of that is the distraction.
Well, no, I agree with you on that.
Distraction from the fact that Aaron Mate is a fine investigative reporter. He went to Syria and he had a very, very good report. And what really bothers me about this whole thing is that the reporting that he did on Syria, which is so important and people need to pay attention to, has been lost in this dialogue about Jimmy Dore and Anna Kasparian and all this. But really, we need to bring it back to the fact that they misrepresented Aaron Mate's reporting, which was very good. And they did it on purpose. And that's why I don't watch the Young Turks, because they're more establishment Democrat. I'm very anti-imperialist and I'm very left. And those who know me know who I am. I'm a lefty left. But back to what you're saying, I just think it's a distraction from the fact that on their show, they misrepresented a video about Aaron Mate that he did on his reporting on Syria. And that's what this is about. They're trying to get a message across about, the empire, basically, and the bombings that we do in Syria. And Aaron Mate's message conflicted with the establishment Dems.
Oh, and I'm not saying it's not a distraction. I think actually what points to the fact that it's a distraction is how many of the leftist journalists are coming out, and they did a bit about Jimmy to try to discredit him, but they're utterly silent about everybody else. Like Vaush does a video about Jimmy. The Serfs did a video about Jimmy. That Sam Nieder, I think his name, did a video, but they're not saying anything about the other side of it. And the only reason that's important to me is that if this is really your motive, if you're concerned about women being mistreated, why are we not talking about the rest of this? And because at the end of the day, what it really amounts to is trying to silence this issue about Syria. I don't disagree with you about that at all. But it points to the fact that Me Too is only important if it's beneficial to us in the moment. That's just the part that I'm getting.
Me Too is a hashtag. It's trash. It's roadkill, political roadkill at this point.
Right.
Me Too is politically weaponized to use for convenience by the Democratic Party, either as a shield to say how great they are with women's issues, or it's used to undermine maybe and attack someone else that they don't like. And I'm thinking, of different people that were falsely, there are false accusations at times. Whether Anna Kasparian, whatever her point is, I don't even know all of that whole convoluted back and forth that went on, because it's at this point, it's so convoluted, it's hard to go through. But that's what happens, unfortunately. What really needs to happen is that, for instance, I brought up Anita Dunn to you. We don't need women that promote misogyny. We don't need women that catch and kill. The Young Turks didn't have me on their show. They reached out and then didn't follow up. I did. They didn't really want me on, I don't think. They didn't have me on. If they cared about women's issues, I would have been on there. Just like I'm on Democracy Now!, just like I was on Katie Halper. I have not been on Jimmy Dore, but I do admire him. And I think, he's a comedian, but he also says things And comedians do this. And my brother's a comic. He's a professional comedian and does really well in his own right. And we kind of keep our worlds separate. But Colin knows of Jimmy too, and is had even been on the same stage with him and those kinds of things early in New York. And I just think that Jimmy Dore says things that people, sometimes it's difficult for them to hear, but they need to hear it. The problem, the reason why it's so important is that our tax money is paying for those weapons.
Right.
And that is, the consent is not there. And I keep saying to people, Joe Biden didn't get consent from me.
Right.
And he's not going to get consent from the American people when he does acts of war, and he has not. Was there any kind of discussion in Congress or debate about Iraq or Syria recently? Was there any kind of discussion or debate about giving more money to Israel for more bombs? No.
No, he's just pulling a George Bush Iraq war resolution. I can do whatever I want. I'll bomb whenever I want.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly in that. And, I guess I hope that that's something that annoys me about the Young Turks doing that, is that they're trying to cover up on this and they're pro bombing. And I'm like, you're supposed to be a progressive outlet. Like They're not. Now we're going to cover up that. And then the other people, for people because Vaush isn't talking about the bombing in Syria, and the Serfs aren't talking about all these other people that are getting involved in this, that they're not talking about it either. It all needs to be about shutting up Jimmy Dore, and then it needs to be, and then as a result, shutting up, Aaron Monte. I think Glenn Greenwald did a bit. I don't know if you watched it, but he did a video recently that I felt was very level-headed. But he pointed out just how screwed up this whole situation is. But he's always been a good guy for kind of exposing corruption in the media,
Yes.
But and I feel that I agree with you that it's a distraction, and it annoys me that Metoo, that women's suffering can be weaponized to distract the American people. So I think Tara, again, made a very valid point there. And that was that this is all a distraction. This basically ensures that we're not discussing what's really going on in Syria. We're not discussing the journalism in question. Now we're just discussing, women's crotch shots, and we're discussing Jimmy Dore's alleged, sexual harassment 15 years ago. So keep all of that in mind, because it's pretty clear to me that there are people who are in some way, all motivated by the same narrative of making it acceptable to bomb Syria. And it makes you wonder, who's pulling the strings? Because if the whole notion is that we're going to stand up for women's rights and stand against, sexual harassment, and that's what supposedly is emboldening us to take this, this heavy stance with Jimmy Dore, but at the same time, we're just going to be totally silent about, the element and, from the Young Turks doing that. It just doesn't, there's no way to justify that, but they're still dead silent. Anyway, I will be putting together some more videos soon. Actually, I'm probably going to do another one tomorrow. I have a lot more to do with critical race theory in schools. I have a bunch more slides and stuff I'm going to use and kind of share with you guys. I have a leaked video from a college that basically is a CRT education and how to put it in all of your curriculums. And there's some pretty chilling, weird stuff in there, that I think you guys will find interesting, just as to how they want to kind of sneak it into the curriculums, and how they also have a system in place to simply censor any student who doesn't like it. If you guys have any guests that you'd like me to bring on, I'm going to continue to do that. I'd like some feedback from you guys, because I noticed that I don't get as much feedback from my long podcast-like interviews as I do from my briefer videos. I did do a poll on Twitter, and it seems like you guys do prefer YouTube over podcasts. And I'm kind of trying to figure out how I want to keep everybody happy, because originally V Radio was just a podcast. And, that format, I think I'm going to continue to do both, but it really, I kind of want to just, see what you guys want. So again, please give, comments on anything that you like. Give some details about what you like about the videos, because that's really my payoff, because I'm not monetized on purpose. I'm not asking for any money. And my payoff is that I put in some hard work to put together videos for you guys, and then you tell me what it is you like or don't like about them. So thanks again.